90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After star Jasmine and Matt meet attorney Oxalis to discuss Gino's notice and its impact on their DA. Jasmine disclosed during the discussion that Gino has filed a complaint against her and accused her of marriage fraud, which could potentially affect her ability to remain in the United States. The lawyer cautioned that the child would not be acknowledged as a U.S. citizen if the fraud accusations are true and she is deported before the birth of her child. The fact that Florida law assumes that any kid born during a valid marriage is the husband's, in this case, Gino's, is even more shocking. The 90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After? Consultation revealed how precarious their future is, both legally and personally, with Jasmine's feelings raw and Matt clearly frightened. The 90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After? Discussion between Jasmine, Matt, and attorney Oxalis revealed a jumble of marriage, immigration, and parental regulations that were all colliding at once. An open marital arrangement has turned into a legal threat, allegations, and deportation fears. We explain the legal complications and their potential implications for Jasmine, Matt, and their unborn child below. Attorney Oxalis informed them that in the event that the marriage is determined to be false, Gino's complaint may start the deportation process. The lawyer began by stressing how Gino's allegations may ruin Jasmine's present life, including her loss of access, residency, and, most importantly, her ability to raise or even have a kid with legal safeguards. Following the comment, the lawyer stated that the child would not be considered a U.S. citizen if deportation occurred before birth. He went on to say that due to time constraints, it is practically impossible to get a divorce and get married again before giving birth to Matt. After the conversation, Jasmine and Matt were rattled and realized that their only defense against a very real threat was now a legal strategy. Regardless of biological reality, Florida law automatically assumes Gino is the legal father because Jasmine is still married to him at the time of the baby's birth. The lawyer emphasized how this assumption compels Matt to defend his rights through legal action, potentially a paternity challenge. 90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, Matt responded to the comment with a mixture of resignation and rage, admitting that even if DNA reveals otherwise, he might have to fight in court. When Jasmine expressed her biggest concern, telling her mother the whole truth about her marriage and immigration situation, her voice broke with anxiety. As the conference came to an end, they were considering their options and understood that their struggle was not only for identification but also for the future security of their family. 90-Day Fiancé, I'm upset with what Joan Cruchov said to Greg Chillick's mom. She was my season 11 favorite but not anymore. I think Joan Cruchov's taunt to Greg Chillick's mom, Lucille, on 90-Day Fiancé has exposed her true intentions behind wanting to marry the American man. Joan traveled to America on a K-1 visa on 90-Day Fiancé Season 11. Joan has been facing challenges as she makes her way to the aisle, mainly her having to stay under the same roof as Greg's mom in their house in Long Island, where Lucille has some strict rules. It was after Joan arrived in the U.S. that she realized she and Greg would have to sleep in separate rooms. My mother-in-law. Joan also complained about Greg's house not being organized and didn't like that their two family dogs were allowed on the bed. At first, it looked like Lucille was making Joan feel unwelcome on purpose, especially when she started keeping tabs on how many showers Joan was taking. Joan had literally flown thousands of miles and was tired, so she took a shower before hitting the hay and took a second one when she woke up. However, Lucille was now being compared to Debbie Johnson, and Greg to Colt Johnson. They even have a slot machine at home like Colt did. Joan's comment disrespected her mother-in-law. Joan got to spend some time alone with Greg's mother, Lucille, when Greg headed for his interview for the state job. Lucille took Joan's help in finishing a long-due project, which was sorting through a pile of misfit socks to find matching pairs. Lucille was happy with Joan and even praised her for taking the initiative to clean the bathroom, which Greg could never have. So I think she's doing all right, Lucille told the cameras. Lucille was trying her best to bond well with Joan and asked her if there was anything Joan didn't like in America. Joan started off by praising Lucille, but while Lucille thought that Joan would tell her about how she missed her food from back home, Joan told her she needed privacy. She told Greg's mom that she was always home most of the time and added, "Think you should go out more." She told Greg's mom that she was always home most of the time because it was Lucille's house. "Think you should go out more." Lucille wondered why Joan would say something like that because it was Lucille's house. Since she had been more than accommodating to Greg and Joan. Lucille wondered why Joan would say something very unsettling. Since she had been more than accommodating to Greg and Joan better before moving to America. Joan's comment very unsettling. Lucille got signals that Joan should have got to know Greg better before moving to America. I thought Joan was being snarky when she told that Joan was not an appreciative person. "You are free to stay." I thought Joan was being snarky when she told Joan was more than a little out of line with her comment about Lucille living in her own house. It's clear to me now that Joan was more than a little out of line with her comment about Lucille living in her own Greg's mom, who knew her son very well, that she was more than Joan had known Greg and made it known to Greg's mom. I believe the fact that Greg lived very well and didn't have a job are things that Joan should have known beforehand. I believe the fact that Greg lived with his mom and didn't have a job are things that Joan should have known beforehand. Joan led me to believe that she lived a better life in Uganda than she does in America. Joan led me to believe that she lived a better life in Uganda than she does in America and doesn't have a plan. Joan is motivated and headstrong compared to Greg, who has been aimless and doesn't have a plan, and perhaps helped him with some money for both of them to live in a house she liked with the privacy she wanted, and perhaps helped him with some money for both of them to live in a house because she would have talked about that on 90 Day Fiancé. It doesn't look like Joan wants a $3,000 dowry from the unemployed 90 Day Fiancé. 90 Day Fiancé's Matt is afraid to tell from the unemployed man situation with Jasmine, and I can't help but chuckle over Matt is afraid to tell his parents about his situation with Jasmine. The following contains spoilers from the 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After. The following contains spoilers from the 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After. Stream the episode with an HBO Max subscription and read at your own risk. Stream the episode with an HBO Max subscription and read at your own 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After. And Matt Branasterianu after she decided to tell Gino 90 Day Fiancé she was pregnant, Happily Ever After, his plans to divorce her. After she decided to tell Gino Palazzolo she was pregnant, since she learned they were having a girl, to divorce her. And she's noticed that he hasn't made much of an effort to introduce her to his family. They were having a girl, and she's noticed that he hasn't made much of an effort to introduce her to his family. 90 Day Fiancé revealed in this latest episode that Matt comes from a strong Romanian background, 90 Day Fiancé revealed in this latest episode that Matt decided to test Romanian background being around a Romanian person by linking up with a friend. But I'm not sure what good it did Jasmine being around a Romanian person by linking up with a friend. But I'm not sure what good it did him. Matt said his Romanian culture prevents him from being truthful to his family about Jasmine. But I'm not sure his Romanian culture prevents him from being truthful to his family about Jasmine. Religious, but I'm not sure anyone would find it unapologetic about it. But I can't help but ask why any of that matters. Romanian and unapologetic about it. Plays but I can't help but ask why any of that matters. Because who would want to tell their parents about this situation? I don't think his culture plays any role in this at all. No matter how you try to explain it. Because who would want to tell their parents about the situation you only hooked up with because she was in a no strings attached open relationship. Impregnating a married woman you only hooked up with because she was in a no strings attached open relationship. The mother of his future child is unsure she wants him in the picture because he reminds her of her absent father. The mother of his future child is unsure she wants him in the planning to move to Florida together, and it remains to be seen if there will be any future relationship between them. To Florida together. Did I mention it's all documented if there will be any future relationship between them? I can't imagine. Did I mention it's all documented about that kind of 90 Day Fiancé? Jasmine isn't blind to the fact that it's a messy situation. I think she's well aware of how it sounds. Jasmine isn't blind to the fact that it's a messy situation. Matt is a grown man, she's well aware and not telling his parents about it isn't going to make the situation any easier to bear. Matt is a grown man, and not telling his parents about it isn't going to make the situation any easier to bear. Together? So, Jasmine posted some photos ahead of this season of 90 Day Fiancé still together? The other way, which suggested she moved some photos ahead of this season of 90 Day Fiancé with Matt. The other way, it appears that they're still together to Florida, but their level of commitment remains a question. Things stand with Matt, it in an Instagram post just last week, but their level of Jasmine referred to Matt as her boyfriend. So it appears they're in a romantic relationship rather than just Jasmine referred to Matt as her boyfriend. So it appears they're in a romantic relationship they're ready rather to tie the knot and get engaged their daughter Matilda. But maybe we'll be surprised in the new year. I'm not sure they're ready to tie the knot and get engaged given Jasmine's prominence but maybe in the we'll franchise. Be surprised in the new year. I'm not sure she'd leak her engagement I will say that, it was shown given on television. Jasmine's prominence in the franchise. I would see her I'm and not Matt sure she'd leak her engagement wanting to save that for a future season of 90 Day Fiancé. I would see her and Matt the relationship is trending in that direction for a future season.